This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Chinese President Xi Jinping hosts a virtual summit for China and Central and Eastern European countries. Concerns mount on the effectiveness of some COVID-19 vaccines in the wake of new variants. And we take stock of the achievements of the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Welcome to Africa Live on CGTN with me, Beatrice Marshall, in Nairobi. Also coming up on the program, South African Airways to finalize a business rescue process this month. And in your sports, Bayern Munich beat the African club champions Al Ahly 2-0 to reach the Club World Cup final. Chinese President Xi Jinping has hosted a summit for China and Central and Eastern European countries via a video link. During a keynote speech, President Xi praised how the sides were cooperating, saying their relationship was based on mutual respect with no political strings attached. He added that all countries involved were equal partners, regardless of their size, and that a special multi-dimensional cooperation framework, which covers 20 sectors, had been established to ensure the participation of all sides. He said that the framework featured extensive consultation, joint contribution, and shared benefits. He said the sides had decided on projects based on the national reality of each country and encouraged all countries to find the best way to leverage their respective strengths. Well, let's now take a look at some of the cooperation between China and Central and Eastern European countries and what has been achieved.
The cooperation mechanism established between China and Central and Eastern European countries aims to promote business and investment. So far, they've held 9 economic and trade forums, 3 ministerial conferences, and 4 investment and trade expos. In 2020, China's trade with the 17 partners surpassed $100 billion for the first time, after seeing an average annual growth of 8% since 2012. China's direct investment in those countries amounted to over $3 billion by the end of 2020, covering energy, minerals, infrastructure, and other sectors. In turn, the European countries have invested more than $1.7 billion in the Chinese market. China has also been working on a range of infrastructure projects with the other nations, including the Peljasac Bridge, which connects Croatia's southernmost county to the rest of the mainland. In 2020, China signed construction contracts worth over $5 billion to build infrastructure in Central and Eastern Europe. The China-Europe Railway Express conducted a total of 12,400 trips in the past year. The countries have also worked together in cultural and creative endeavors. Forums on dance, music, and tourism have been hosted to exchange ideas. In 2019, Southwest China's Chengdu hosted a music festival that featured 6 groups of performers from the European countries. Recently, China launched an exhibition to showcase film productions from Central and Eastern Europe. China and its European partners have joined forces in combating the coronavirus pandemic. They held virtual meetings to exchange information and guidelines on methods to contain the spread of infections. In January, Serbia received 1 million doses of coronavirus vaccine from China, helping it vaccinate a higher percentage of its population than any other European country. At the end of January, Hungary authorized China's Sinopharm COVID-19 vaccine for emergency use, becoming the first country in the European Union to approve a Chinese vaccine.
Well, let's turn to South Africa, which has stopped using AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine in its immunization drive. The chair of the country's COVID-19 Vaccine Advisory Committee said it would not be ethical to use the vaccine after early results showed the jab was not effective against South Africa's COVID-19 variant. A small study suggested AstraZeneca's vaccine only provided minimal protection against the new variant. The country is facing a second wave of COVID-19 infections, with the new variant accounting for over 90% of cases.
Now, those numbers aren't very big. That is true, but unfortunately, when it was analysed, the kind of efficacy went down to the 20%, 22%. As low as that. And obviously, ethically, we can't really kind of use a vaccine which is going to have such a low degree of efficacy. So the kind of decision was then taken to just suspend using the AZ vaccine for the rollout for the meantime. Until we get more data, it may well, and this is really a speculation, may well be effective in protecting against severe infection and hospitalization. And we're really basing that speculation on other vaccines, where we translate the effect of mild to moderate protection to severe infection.
Meanwhile, the World Health Organization is also now worried about the efficacy of COVID-19 vaccines in the wake of an increase of new variants. The head of the global health body, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, is urging vaccine manufacturers to be wary of the potential impacts of the new variants on available jabs.
The emergence of new variants of the virus has raised questions about the potential impact of those variants on vaccines. Yesterday, South Africa announced that it was putting a temporary hold on the rollout of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine after a study showed it was minimally effective at preventing mild to moderate disease caused by a variant first identified in South Africa. This is clearly concerning news, given the limited sample size of the trial and the younger, healthier profile of the participants. It's important to determine whether or not the vaccine remains effective in preventing more severe illness. These results are a reminder that we need to do everything we can to reduce circulation of the virus with proven public health measures.
It's been 4 years since the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention was established as a specialized technical organ of the African Union. The health body has been involved in containing numerous disease outbreaks. Today, the Africa CDC is helping the continent fight the COVID-19 pandemic. CGTN's Girumchal has more.
The Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention was established on January 21st, 2017. It aimed to strengthen the capacity and capability of Africa's public health institutions as well as partnerships.
I always characterize the creation and launch of Africa CDC as one of the greatest political innovation that was inspired by the vision and wisdom of our head of state.
2 years before the Africa CDC was created, West Africa experienced a devastating outbreak of Ebola. African Union member states agreed that future epidemics should be combated in a more coordinated manner.
At that time, Ebola had, the continent had just fought a very fierce battle against Ebola in West Africa. And I'm sure they knew that the future was going to be characterized by other pandemics. So they launched Africa CDC. We are really truly humbled, those of us who were called on to be pioneers in setting up the Africa CDC.
Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention attributes its success in the last 4 years to its expert teams, member states and partners.
We are very proud of the team of experts that make up the staff of Africa CDC, who are working around the clock in responding and preparing our countries to any health and disease outbreaks. We are also very grateful for the support that we have gotten from our member states and from our partners in ensuring that we as Africa CDC are meeting our mandate.
Africa CDC has been coordinating Africa's response against COVID-19 pandemic. And now, thanks to the Chinese government, the Africa CDC will soon have this state-of-the-art headquarters now under construction. Many say this new HQ will help the continental health organ better serve the people of Africa. Africa CDC has a lot it wants to achieve in the next few years. And for that, it's already equipping itself with technology and know-how from similar CDCs of China, In the United States, observers say Africa CDC's work in the past 4 years has given it the confidence to battle any pandemic. Group Data CGTN, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
In the Democratic Republic of Congo, a new case of the Ebola virus has been detected in the east near the city of Butembo. The Ministry of Health says the infected person, a woman, has since died. The victim tested positive for Ebola on February the 1st and died in hospital 2 days later. The woman was married to a man who had contracted the virus during a previous outbreak. The announcement by the Ministry of Health potentially marks the start of DRC's 12th Ebola outbreak since it was discovered in 1976. The country announced the end of the 11th outbreak in the West 3 months ago.
More than 70 contacts have been identified, and WHO is supporting local and national authorities to trace them and provide care where needed. So far, no other cases have been identified, but it's possible there will be further cases because the woman had contact with many people after she became symptomatic. Vaccines are being sent to the area, and we hope that vaccination will start as soon as possible.
You're watching Africa Live, still ahead on the program. There's political uncertainty in Somalia after the opposition called for the removal of President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo. And Libya's Joint Military Commission registers more progress in its latest round of meetings.
Africa is a continent of diversity, with varied climates and enchanting geography, and a people so distinct, but with a shared enduring spirit. We are at the heart of the continent to bring you the untold stories.
Let's have a look.
We celebrate Africa as it shapes its own destiny.
I've been Tunis, Cairo, Juba, Ethiopia, Tanzania.
Africa Live. Find your voice. How will your world change today? What happens here? What happens there? Or what you make happen for yourself. If it matters to you, it matters to us too. Your stories are the stories that need to be told. Africa Live. Find your voice.
Nigeria is my home. 160 million vibrant, ambitious individuals constantly seeking the perfect self-expression. It is these people who inspired me to be that person that is seen, to be a voice that is heard, and ultimately to be the anchor that I am. I have to tap in, tune in, and turn on the very best qualities within me to deliver the news. I'm Richard Nta, an anchor for CGTN.
Heavy rains have flooded an illegal garment factory in Morocco's northern city of Tangier, killing at least 28 workers. About 10 people are said to have been rescued from the factory by firefighters and emergency workers. Rescuers are still searching for others who might still be trapped after the sudden flooding. The total number of laborers at the site is unknown. Due to a growing international demand, numerous factories in Morocco, mostly in Casablanca and Tangier, rely on unregulated shadow factories to speed up production and meet deadlines. To Somalia now, and political uncertainty has gripped the nation. The opposition has been calling for the removal of President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo from office, accusing him of delaying the implementation of the elections. CGTN's Abdulaziz Bello has more.
On Monday, Somali President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo marked 4 years in office. However, unlike in the previous years, there are no celebrations as the country is embroiled in a constitutional crisis. The mandate of the executive officially expired, but presidential, parliamentary and senate elections have yet to take place. On Saturday, President Farmajo told lawmakers in Mogadishu that talks between his administration and regional states collapsed over differences in the electoral selection process.
I hereby declare that my government is ready to implement the 17th September Agreement. I urge you all to take part in convincing all those opposed to this process to accept and move forward.
However, the opposition is not convinced. Instead, it has announced that it no longer recognizes him as the head of state. It now wants a transitional national council headed by speakers of both houses of parliament to oversee the polls.
The mandate of President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo's term as president has ended. He is an obstacle to the implementation of the upcoming election. We want those ready to take part in the vote to come forward. We don't want to waste time anymore.
However, a resolution passed by Parliament in September last year stipulates that Parliament, the Senate and the President will continue to serve even after the expiry of their mandate to avoid a power vacuum.
The law is clear. This House will only be represented by another Parliament through a fresh election. A new president will replace Mohamed Farmajo in case he does not get re-elected.
Pundits say leaders must show compromise to avoid political instability and conflict in the run-up to the vote. More than a dozen candidates, including former presidents, are seeking the country's top job.
The incumbent leaders, both at the federal and state levels, should not give up seeking an agreement, but should come together again, compromising for the vulnerable institutions and security, and save Somalia from plunging into electoral violence, for which they will bear the responsibility if they do not consider nation's interests over their personal interests.
On Tuesday, Prime Minister Mohamed Hussein Roble will address Parliament. It's unclear whether he will seek an extension of mandate. The opposition is adamant that the executive must vacate office. The international partners want Somali leaders to meet urgently in order to reach a final agreement. It also warns against any alternative methods, including parallel polls or partial elections, warning that unless it receives a broad agreement, it will lack the support of partners. Abdulaziz Bello, CGTN, Mogadishu, Somalia.
Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa has appointed Frederick Shava as the country's new Minister of Foreign Affairs. Shava takes over the docket which was held by Sibusiso Moyo, who was among 3 cabinet ministers who died of COVID-19 related complications last month. Shava, who is the country's former representative to the United Nations, also served as Zimbabwe's ambassador to China for 7 years. Mnangagwa also filled the other 2 remaining cabinet positions. Libya's Joint Military Commission has reported progress during its latest round of meetings. It agreed to begin the removal of landmines scattered during the civil war and open the main coastal highway for commercial and civilian use. The commission comprises military leaders from rival forces in the east and west. Here's Adel Mahroui with the details.
In the strategic city of Sirte, which divides the eastern and western territories, Libya is seeing significant progress in the security talks. The 5+5 military commission has concluded 4 days of meetings which ended in agreement. Generals representing the government of national accord and the Libyan National Army say they will start clearing landmines from the front lines.
The government of National Accord is conditionally trying to open the coastal road by removing the landmines. When the civil war broke out, both sides sprayed landmines on the dividing line between them. Now there are fears that when the highway is open, people in trucks could get hurt.
The Commission will also begin a process to calculate the number of foreign fighters and their locations to assist the UN in evacuating them. The continued presence of foreign fighters is seen as a threat to political and military progress.
Nations who have mercenaries in Libya are not admitting that they have fighters there, which is creating a problem. How can you convince them to evacuate fighters who they say do not exist? In addition, some of these fighters have not been paid for months, so they don't want to leave without getting paid. That creates further complications.
Last October, the Military Commission signed the ceasefire agreement. The deal included evacuating foreign fighters within 90 days. Despite the deadline expiring in January, no progress has so far been seen. One of the most significant outcomes of the military talk is the agreement over the UN monitors. The 5+5 Military Commission has accepted to allow military experts and civilians to oversee the ongoing ceasefire. This week, they began preparing a plan to send these monitors to the front line where rival forces still stand. Adel Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
The Director General of the Nigerian Television Authority, Yakubu Ibn Mohammed, has applauded China for its efforts in containing the coronavirus pandemic. During an interview with China Media Group reporters, Yakubu spoke highly of China's contribution and achievements in the fight against COVID-19 in 2020. He also wished Chinese people New Year blessings.
Watching the story, and there it was. Life had returned to normal in Wuhan 1 year after. We all saw how devastated in terms of activity the city was. But it says a lot about the resilience of the Chinese spirit. I think no any other country in the world has done so much, has contributed so much to the control of the pandemic than China. I would like to personally, congratulate our friends in China on this era of the ox. And I do sincerely hope and pray that this new year of the ox will usher in, more progress, not only to China, but to the world at large, including our country, Nigeria.
Let's now turn to Cote d'Ivoire. Chinese living in the country are preparing to mark the Chinese Spring Festival. But this year's celebrations will not have the usual fanfare. Ashtatal has more.
This year's celebration of the Chinese Spring Festival will take on a more somber tone in Cote d'Ivoire. For Chinese workers living in the country, this means foregoing the regularly scheduled trip to visit family members.
Concerning the Chinese New Year celebration, all the company's employees will stay here in Cote d'Ivoire. When the time comes, we will organize a ceremony among the company's employees as we originally planned to do with our families in China.
Despite the challenges they faced during the pandemic, including being far from their families, many of the Chinese remain optimistic.
In this new year, I wish everyone full success, prosperity, and health, and I also wish that COVID-19 will cease. I wish all Chinese people a happy new year and a good Ox festival. Ox is a symbol of luck, so I wish good luck and health to all Ivorians.
COVID-19 guidelines mean the Chinese embassy won't be able to mark the day with the usual fanfare. Instead, China's ambassador to Cote d'Ivoire touched on efforts made to help Africa gain access to COVID-19 vaccines.
China and Africa are discussing cooperation on vaccines. China will provide 10 million doses of vaccine to COVAX, most of which will be distributed to developing countries, including Africa. All of these gestures by China are a testament to the friendship of the Chinese people to the African people. It also represents China's honored commitment as a great and responsible country.
The Chinese Spring Festival ushers in a new year, and with that, hopes for the future. Asta Tal, CGTN.
The final rehearsals are underway for China's Spring Festival Gala. It is the most watched televised event in the world, with hundreds of millions of people across China tuning in to usher in the new lunar year.
Innovation and integration of genres are two features that dominate the Chunwan Gala for the Year of the Ox. New mediums and packaging have also been adopted to present a marvellous raft of original ideas. Compared with previous years, more latest technologies will be employed in delivering the entertainment to a wider audience. The signals will be produced in the 8K high-definition display format and carried through a 5G network. And the internet will bring the gala to viewers in more than 170 countries and regions around the world. Over 600 media organisations will broadcast or cover the spectacular event. According to one of its co-directors, this year's Chunwan Gala will assert its artistic standing apart from seeking popular acclaim.
So we hope that the act will form a coherent whole. It will be an expression of an artistic vision. We believe it will stand alone as an independent work of art. In selecting the songs, we've stressed the empathy and sincerity of the melodies and lyrics. Each tune will touch a chord of the audience's heart. All the viewers of the show will feel warmth welling up inside of them.
Apart from songs, dances and comedy skits, the Chunwan Gala will also present a feast of China's indigenous traditional operas. A three-tier old-school theatre venue will emerge on the stage with the help of virtual reality technology. Some of the country's best performers will sing arias inspired by China's traditional values, including honour, moral integrity and love for the country. The Spring Festival Gala, also known as the Chunwan, is an essential part of the celebration for China's traditional Lunar New Year. The show is produced by the China Media Group, the country's state national broadcaster and one of the world's leading media conglomerates. Recognised by Guinness World Records as one of the most watched television programmes, the annual event has become an institution for Chinese people across the world since its inception in 1983. Mike Fox, CGTN.
Now, cattle are an essential part of culture for many people across Africa. The animal is held in high esteem and ownership is associated with wealth and status. As this year marks the Year of the Ox in the lunar calendar, CGTN's Daniel Arap Moi looks at the Maasai community in Kenya, best known for their distinctive cow culture.
The Maasai, a tribe in Kenya, would rather get on with doing what they do best, looking after their cattle. The Maasai view their cattle as the most valuable asset in life, going to extreme lengths to protect them at all costs. Their cattle are a form of currency and status symbol and form a key part of the family's wealth. From dowry to even a friend, a cow to the Maasai is a resource, maintaining not just a people but a way of life.
You want to marry a Maasai girl, you'll not be entitled to have that girl if you don't have more than 100 cows. But you have to pay that girl with 10 or 20 cows, so that you can be entitled to own the girl. Failure to that, you will not have to get that girl without a number of cows.
Among the Maasai, the tradition of the dowry still remains a key pillar of unifying a man and woman in matrimony, and that still calls for a valuable number of cows.
When we are given a girl for marriage, we take cows. We take cows like these ones. We take approximately 10 cows and give to your in-laws, and that is the culture.
Cows also come in handy during cultural initiation ceremonies.
You must have as many cows as possible, because on that particular ceremony, a cows like this one, we may slaughter 10 or 7 so that we can celebrate that particular day.
Sampeke, A Maasai pastoralist in Kenya's Kajiado County says for any Maasai boy to be considered a man, one must have a substantial number of cows to be respected by the elders.
For over 30 years, Sampeke has lived a lifestyle based around his herds, and that's how he intends to live the rest of his life.
Africa remains home to an extraordinary array of indigenous cattle, well over 100 distinct breeds. Daniel Arab Moi, CGTN, Kajiado, Kenya.
Here's a quick reminder now of our top stories this hour. Chinese President Xi Jinping has hosted a summit for China and Central and Eastern European countries via a video link. During a keynote speech, President Xi praised how the sides were cooperating, saying their relationship was based on mutual respect with no political strings attached. The chair of South African COVID-19 Advisory Committee has said it would not be ethical to use the AstraZeneca vaccine after early results showed the jab was not effective against the country's COVID-19 variant. A small study suggested AstraZeneca's vaccine only provided minimal protection against the new variant. And in Morocco, heavy rains have flooded an illegal garment factory in the northern city of Tangier, killing at least 28 workers. About 10 people are said to have been rescued from the factory by firefighters and emergency workers. Rescuers are still searching for others who might still be trapped after the sudden flooding. Well, that's a look at the headlines this hour. Let's now take a look at your business news coming up. South African Airways to finalize a business rescue process this month.
This has taken me completely out of my depth, but at the same time it's exciting. It's new, it's different, it's a challenge.
It's really exciting.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
South African Airways is set to finalize a protracted business rescue process at the end of February. Stakeholders are on track to complete the selection of a private partner for the embattled state-owned airline by the end of March. However, funding is desperately needed to complete the process. CGTN Sumitra Naidu has more on this.
Government bailouts and loans to SAA over the last 20 years amounts to almost $400 million. Last year, the airline was promised another $640 million, but the money is being dispersed in tranches from the Treasury. SAA has received just a quarter of the allocation thus far and hasn't been able to settle salaries.
They should have been paid much earlier, in our view, as a department, because the money was there to begin the payments so that employees weren't left in the kind of position that they eventually found themselves in. And it is definitely not the intent of government to place additional hardships on anybody. But as I've pointed out repeatedly, and the DG has pointed out as well, we only have so much of leverage in this regard.
At the end of 2019, the airline was placed into business rescue. By the end of March, SAA had to stop flying because of COVID. In September 2020, the airline was completely grounded.
The reality is that the grounding in terms of the financial crisis SAA faces of its own making in a sense, couldn't have come at a better time, simply because the rest of the world's airlines are now operating at around about 30 to 50% capacity. The 50% capacity is more related to cargo flying. Passenger capacities on the international routes are down to 30%. So there's massive capacity out there. And I think it actually suits SAA to be grounded at this stage.
The Treasury has its hands full at the moment trying to find money for COVID vaccines, amongst other things. The Department of Public Enterprises, in the meantime, is hoping to finalize a new private equity partner for the airline.
There was a transaction advisor that was appointed, as you are aware, last year to process all of these offers that we've actually had. We do have a short list that they have actually produced. The board will be provided with that short list, and we are due to meet in the next 24 or 48 hours to conclude how we process those particular issues as well.
For now, the Special Appropriation Bill, which regulates government spending, has been passed and will open the door for the rest of the funding from Treasury to be paid to SAA's business rescue practitioners so that the restructure can be completed. Many are now waiting anxiously to hear about the new equity partner and whether SAA will fly again. Sumitra Nadu, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
Rwanda's national carrier has suspended its flights to South Africa, Zambia and Zimbabwe in an attempt to contain the spread of a new coronavirus variant. The move comes after South African authorities detected a new variant of COVID-19 that was rapidly spreading in the provinces. Rwanda is among the countries recently added to the UK's coronavirus travel ban list. The UK officials say the decision to expand its travel ban to Rwanda was recommended by UK scientists due to Rwanda's limited gene sequencing testing capacity. Meanwhile, new testing requirements have frustrated couriers operating at the Democratic Republic of Congo's border with Rwanda. The once vibrant route provided a steady income for the couriers, but now has only a few dozen plying the route between the twin cities of Rubavu and Goma. New regulations have left dozens stranded and desperate. CGTN's Beryl Oro has the story.
Over the short stretch of no man's land between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo, couriers living with disability are forced to sit idle and their wares stationary, laden on supersized tricycle due to the legal limitations linked to the pandemic.
It is difficult for me as a person living with disability to go looking for work elsewhere if I cannot find work here at the border. I cannot find work anywhere because I am physically challenged. Being couriers is vital for us because as long as we work as couriers, we will never go hungry and we will be able to feed our families.
Claude has a permit to shuttle some goods in and out of DRC tax-free, but an 8-month-long border closure last year, coupled with new testing regulations caused by the coronavirus pandemic, meant he and 200 fellow couriers saw business dry up.
We don't have $50 to get tested, and we don't even have the means to earn that much money. That's why we are sitting here doing nothing. We don't know what to do anymore. We don't know what will happen to us. We know that the borders have reopened, but we have no one to help us or guide us through this problem.
There are few opportunities for people living with special needs, especially in trade. But thanks to a decade-long old quirk in customs law, sending goods via custom-made carts is cheaper than hiring a truck.
I chose to use the services of couriers because they're more affordable than using truck drivers who bring goods from across the border.
Most have been able to benefit from the custom law. However, authorities now require the couriers to take a regular COVID-19 test, which at $40 per swab is a prohibitive cost for many who earn less than $20 a day. Rwanda gives free tests to Claude and around 60 of his colleagues, but the remaining 140 couriers must pay their own way.
What I want for our government is to help facilitate us from some of these issues. Rwanda helped us by providing us with free tests, and so should the Congolese government, so that we can go back to work and be able to feed our families.
The rest of the out-of-work couriers have been gathering on their hybrid bikes on the Congolese side of the border, hoping for a clear break in a season that globally can be considered unpredictable. Beryl Oro, CGTN.
South Africa has recorded a record-setting citrus season after exports spiked as the result of high global demand. Citrus demand increased globally due to the pandemic, and the country's citrus fruit industry was well positioned to take advantage of that. CGTN's Travers Andrews has more details.
It's been a bumper season for South Africa's citrus industry, where it's sold a record number of fruit and increased market share. That's according to the Citrus Growers Association, who say the harvest was so good that the amount of cartons sold could reach to the moon and back if placed on top of one another.
The total amount of cartons, and these are 15 kilogram boxes of fruit, of citrus fruit, was 146 million, and that equates to 2.2 million tons. And as such, South Africa is the second biggest exporter of citrus fruit in the world after Spain.
Like the rest of the country's agricultural industry, the citrus sector has been an outlier in the economy, showing steady growth in recent years. South African citrus is particularly known for its sweet taste, but the season's fruit was also in high demand largely due to global events.
Definitely the COVID pandemic did play a role. So there is a big search for vitamin C. And also it is seen that citrus is generally a remedy for colds and flu and an immune booster.
While exports grew in key markets such as Europe, Asia and the US, economies of scale have made one country particularly attractive. As the world's largest source market, the demand for South African citrus in China has grown tremendously.
They take about 180,000 tons of citrus annually, and that's massive. We only got access in 2004. And in 2011, we were only sending 10,000 tons. So, in the last 10 years, we've increased that by 170,000 tons. So the Chinese market is really important. They take a lot of oranges.
For now, the industry plans to increase its exports by another 300,000 tons over the next 3 years, so it can assist with the country's efforts to be the #1 citrus producer in the world. Travers Andrews, CGTN, Cape Town.
You're watching Africa Live, still ahead on the program. We examine the potential of the film sector on the continent in line with the African Union's quest to promote art and culture.
The greatest journeys, the greatest sights, the greatest adventures.
Here in Kanata, this weir allows the locals to walk on water.
We're far more than just TV news. We're your passport to the wonders of Africa.
To bring you stories of struggle, survival and hope.
So let's explore. CGTN. See the difference.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
This year, the African Union is promoting African arts and culture. Deji Badmos takes a look at the potential of the film industry in Africa towards achieving that goal.
If one needed a yardstick to assess the impact of film in telling Africa's story, then Nigeria's Nollywood would easily fit the bill. It's the largest film industry in Africa and widely considered to be the second largest in the world after Hollywood. Nollywood has huge potential to project their African culture, heritage and the continent in a better and more positive way. But some of the industry's fast-rising filmmakers think not enough has been done to leverage on that potential.
If we look at the films coming out of Nigeria right now, a lot of these films exist in a vacuum. They don't directly or deliberately try to promote anything. If anything, they even propagate stereotypes. So with the plans that African Union have this year, it's a good call to order for filmmakers like us to now start thinking again on how we can use our culture to tell our stories and use it to dispel stereotypes.
There is an opportunity for sure for how we can possibly do that, and that requires many voices, I guess, and many different tastes and many different types of offerings to the world. And in that sense, could really be the cultural exchange that theoretically it's intended to be, but the idea of it is definitely very, very important.
Even though some Nollywood filmmakers still go out of their way to deliberately project their African culture and values accurately, most filmmakers here place commercial interest over films about culture and the African art.
The problem itself is not the process of making the film. The problem itself is the environment. The environment forces you to make choices which are more on the side of the business than on the art. And if we are able to make those choices that are more on the art, you will see all these things you're looking for.
The Nigerian film industry is breaking new grounds in other markets. In 2019, Chinese media firm Huahua partnered with Nigeria's largest cinema, film production and distribution company Film One, as well as South Africa's Empire Entertainment, to set up the West African Film Fund. The fund focuses on investing in original West African cinema movies. This film titled Sanitation Day, which has just hit the cinemas, is a product of that partnership.
What Huawei is doing is more than amazing, I mean, they are deliberately and intentionally doing what they're doing, you know what I mean? And they must be given all the credit for having the foresight to be able to be interested in doing that in the first place, So, and the opportunity, this is only going to grow. And the growth of it is going to be exponential.
The first China-Nigeria co-production is already in the works as a result of the partnership with Huahua Media. Ijibatmo, CGTN, Lagos, Nigeria.
And we now go to Egypt for a look at a traditional North African dish, the tagine. Here's Yasser Hakim.
Egypt has a rich and diverse cuisine. There are several popular foods for Egyptians. One of them is the tagine. Originating in North Africa, it's cooked differently in each country in the region. Served in heat-resistant pots, the dish consists of vegetables mixed with meat and spices.
We are unique with our tagine. We have 6 types of tagine. They are pure Egyptian food items. We take the mixed vegetable tagine, green peas, green beans, potatoes, zucchini, and carrots are all boiled. We add meat, spices, and tomato sauce, and then we oven heat for 1 hour.
The flexibility and variety of ingredients is what makes this dish attractive.
Amazing, amazing, really delicious. I can eat anything from the Oriental food here. Tagine pasta with cream is just wow. I tried it at home but failed. It was not like this.
Restaurants are not allowed full capacity seating due to coronavirus regulations. Yet families still gather to enjoy the traditional dish.
The health measures are important. There are masks, sanitizers and social distancing. My favorites are mixed vegetables, high mallow, pigeon and lamb leg tagine. We came from the city of Ismailia to eat this food here. We have good restaurants back home, but this item is not easy to cook anywhere.
Tagine is a favorite for foreign visitors as well. That's why it has spread to many countries worldwide. Yes, Hakim for CGTN, Cairo.
And let's now take a look at your sports news. Here's what's ahead. Bayern Munich beat